Hi there, Sharice here. Thanks for tuning in. These videos are fun for me to make, and it's just kind of a therapeutic expression for me. I like to think about things and then I like to share them. I used to be a blogger. I blogged for many years. And then it just kind of fizzled out. But now I'm enjoying vlogging, the whole new, bringing the video aspect into it. It's been pretty fun. But right now, this video is going to be about 7 common traits of narcissists. So I don't know why I feel compelled to make a video about narcissists. I think because it's becoming a big problem in our culture. I don't know if it's always been such a big problem, but I don't know if I'm just noticing it more, but I don't know, or I don't know if we're doing something that's creating more narcissists. The Bible talks about narcissists, but it doesn't use the word narcissist. A narcissist is basically a person in love with themselves. Like Narcissus was the god that looked in the reflection and saw himself back. He loved looking at his own reflection. And so in the Bible, narcissists are referred to as those with insolent pride. And so they're very prideful. But my mother was, I'm pretty sure, a narcissist. I mean, she wasn't diagnosed with that as far as I know. But it's very difficult living with a narcissist or being with one, because they have very controlling behaviors and personalities. And it is narcissistic personality disorder is a personality disorder. Now you have to have so many of the list of traits to actually qualify with the personality disorder. But my mother, for example, she was just very controlling and very, if you didn't do things her way, she would just basically make you feel unloved until you did. And so there's very cold-hearted people. They lack empathy, and they're just not warm people. Sometimes they can be warm, but it's all kind of an act just to get that attention and the attention that they crave. So let's see here. Number 1 is that they're self-important. They talk about themselves almost incessantly. Like if every conversation that you have probably is going to be around them, what they want to do, what they like, what they've done, their accomplishments. The only reason they ask you about you is, especially in the beginning, because they want to learn how they can best manipulate and control you. They want to learn you only to the end that it's going to help them in the end control you and hold things over you and use things against you. And I mean, that sounds really malevolent, but narcissists are malevolent people. And it's a sad thing. It's very sad, but it's just the truth. And so a sign that a common trait is that they'll talk about themselves all the time. So if you find that you're meeting someone new, or maybe you're living with one and you're like, why do they always talk about themselves? Like they never want to know about me. Well, they might be a narcissist. At least that's a narcissistic trait. Number 2 is they'll also boast about their friends and family. They perceive, they're very protective of their friends and family, those that they've identified as part of their system. And they will use their friends and family's accomplishments to make themselves look good, because it is impressive. If someone tells you, my sister did this great thing or does this great thing, my mom does this great thing, my dad did this, then you're going to be like, wow, you're going to be really impressed. And that's the whole point. They might not really even love their, sister, mother, father, in the way that other people do, but they will use them. They're users. They'll use their accomplishments to make themselves look good. Number 3, they'll never admit to shortcomings. And if they do, on the rare instance, admit to a shortcoming or that they've done something wrong, it'll just be because they know that in the end it'll just make them look better, because you'll be like, oh, it's okay. you know, because they know, they're smart enough to know that they can't get away with never saying that they're sorry. So they will say they're sorry sometimes, but it's far and few between, and they never really think they've done anything wrong. Most of the time, they think you're the one with the problem, like 99% of the time. They won't admit to their own shortcomings, but they have no problem pointing out your shortcomings. And it'll just always be like, if you raise the issue with them, like, you know, it hurt my feelings when you did this, or when you ignored me, or when you talked so harshly to me about this, and they'll just be like, not my problem, that's your problem. And no one else has that problem with me. That's what they'll say too. My friends and family don't ever say that about me. I've never heard that before. You're the only one that has the problem with me, so it must be your problem, you know, and they won't want to work on things, and because nothing in their psyche, nothing is really their fault. And that's the way that their brain has gone wrong. They think that narcissists are created in childhood, either because they've had an overprotective parent that's put them on a pedestal and, you know, acted like they could do no wrong, and they grow up in kind of this protected kingly or queenly bubble. And so they get this stunted view of who they are in the world, or they're raised and denigrated, and somehow through trying to cope with, you know, always being denigrated, they overcompensate, and they have an inflated sense of self-importance. So they're not really sure why people become narcissists, but it's likely one of the two extremes of that, being raised like that. And let's see here. So yeah, they will, they just have, they can't, so in their mind is wired like that from childhood. And so I've read some cases where narcissists can go off the deep end and kill people and just have this rageful attack on their own families and people that they've been in relationship with and stuff like that. And what that is if you confront them, or if you force them to admit they're wrong, or if you press them on these issues, they can just go off the deep end, because their mind can't handle that maybe they're wrong. It just can't handle that. So you have to be really careful in dealing with these people. Number 4, no sense of humor. They think they're funny, but they're not funny. And when they try to crack a joke, you're kind of just left with, oh, you know, like trying to laugh with them, but you can't really do it. Or it'll be dark humor, or it'll be poking fun at someone else, or it's just a lot of times their humor. You know, the class clown that's always poking fun at other people, making fun of them, probably is a narcissist. So you get it, that kind of, where they're just really not funny, and nobody thinks they're funny, but they think they're funny. Kind of going along with that, number 5 is that they're usually racist. Now, my mother wasn't a racist, but the men that I know that have been narcissists have been racist. So I don't know if that's a woman-man thing a little bit more maybe, but the guys I've known, but they'll say, I'm not a racist. They'll insist they're not racist, but they'll constantly be cracking racist jokes, usually about black people, but it just depends on where you live. Could be about natives, could be about whatever. But, and then they'll be like, oh, I'm just kidding. I'm not a racist. And then they'll just crack more jokes, and it's just like so offensive. But they just keep doing it. They just keep doing it. Even if you kind of act uncomfortable, they'll just keep doing it. And most normal people don't do that. Number 6, they will aggressively defend whatever they've identified as part of their system. They develop these webs, these systems, as I call them, of, I think other people have called their different terms, narcissistic fuel. I can't remember some of the terms, but they constantly have to have an influx of attention and positive reinforcement for who they are. They thrive on it. It's almost like you have to put gas in the tank, or they will start cracking apart. And so they have these intricate systems. And whenever maybe something will dwindle, maybe they'll break up and they'll lose this whole narcissistic fuel over here, well, then they'll have to get more of it somewhere else. So they also tend to be very promiscuous because they often can't keep a partner. And so when that partner falls away, there's this gap in their attention that they need for their psyche to work. And so they'll go and they'll grab and they'll pull as much in as they can. Maybe they haven't talked to their childhood friends in a while. They'll go and they'll talk to their childhood friends. They run in packs. You don't usually find a lone narcissist because they need too much attention. They tend to, they have people around them all the time. They're on social media a lot because they're constantly needing to be fed with that attention. But now, if you tread on anything they've identified as their system, maybe it's a person, maybe it's a belief, maybe it's just a prideful thing like their favorite team or their hometown or, anything. And even if you just say something factual, even sometimes if you're just asking them a question to try to get clarification about something, if they perceive that you're denigrating or bashing something that they've identified in their system, they will just attack you, like viciously attack you. Like it could be just out of the blue. Like you just be having a conversation and then you'll say something inadvertently and they'll be like, you just really don't know what you're talking about, do you? Like it's just so stark of a contrast from the flow of how things had been. They're just like, wham. They're just like, they react so strongly, so aggressively to any kind of perceived threat to their system. And that's just, it's not really normal to do that. Number 7, the last one I'm going to talk about today, is that the really dangerous part, because narcissists can be dangerous people. I've read many accounts where they'll be the ones that threaten to kill their mates if, over a long period of time, if their mate maybe threatens to leave them or something like that. Narcissists are likely to be the ones to do that because what's happening is when their system starts breaking apart, they start cracking up too. And so they're actually almost antisocial. So there's antisocial personality disorder. And what that is when you're against society. A lot of people get antisocial personality disorder and asocial disorder confused. Asocial just means you want to keep to yourself and you don't really want to go and mix with society. People that kind of want to be loners. That's asocial. That's not usually a serious issue. Antisocial are the psychopaths, the serial killers, and the con artists. And so antisocial personality disorder is like the worst personality disorder you could have. And narcissism is just above it. And so what that tells you is that they're close to willing, like what they'll do, they will break the law if they can get away with it. They will hurt you if they can get away with it. Now, the only thing that keeps them from doing that on a regular basis and actually becoming antisocial, where they don't care, is they care too much about what people think about them, because that's their psyche is tied up in looking like the perfect person so they can get all that attention, that good attention. So they will not break the law if they're being watched, or if they feel like they can't get away with it. Now, they could totally crack apart and go crazy and do anything, but for the most part, they are sneaky. They will get you or get away with stuff when they feel like no one's noticing. So their morals and ethics are not really there. So That's a dangerous situation. So they will, so if you ever get on their wrong side, watch out, because they will go after you in any way they can to ruin your life, hurt you, and they'll do it in ways where they can't be detected. And so they're very calculating that way. And so that's what makes a narcissist dangerous. You know, at first when you meet them, everyone's like, oh, they're charming, they're fun, they're outgoing, they're gregarious, they're just the life of the party. But really, in the end, when you live with one, you see they're very controlling, they're selfish, they're cold-hearted, and they will hurt you. They will hurt you at some point. They will hurt you, and they'll hurt the people closest to them, their own family. And the only way to deal with a narcissist is to have a hard boundary between you and them. Many people have tried to help narcissists have relationships with narcissists, and good for them if they can do that. But by and large, the only way to deal with a narcissist is to shut them out of your life and get a boundary there so that you're safe. Anyway, this has just been my 7 common traits of how to identify a narcissist. Thanks for watching.